Hey guys, welcome to Approach the Nerd. It is your host, Maria Park. And with me, I got my sister from across the pond, Miss Victoria Rain. Please like and subscribe to her videos. I have her channel information in the description below. This video is another, not really mixed identity video, but we're going to talk about interracial marriage because there is a person who is a little problematic, at least where we're concerned, named Dr. Umar Johnson, who is basically a follower of none and basically likes to educate people with semi-knowledge on what it's like to be African or African-American in the United States of America today, but also comparing it or adding on additionally information that is very controversial, racist, problematic, and flat right. It's basic flat out ignorant. So I have my girl here, Victoria, who I know took notes because I sent her a video on Instagram and I'm like, check this guy out. What do you think about this? And this is the video we are making. This is our response to what I have coined the verbal diarrhea of Dr. Umar Johnson. So we're going to pop in this clip really quickly. We're not going to watch the whole thing. We're just going to listen to a little bit. It's really hard to watch for us because, again, verbal diarrhea. And then I'm going to let Victoria take over with her thoughts, and then I'm going to cue in with mine. And then we would love to know what you think because, yeah, this guy has a pretty big following, and I don't understand why. So, yeah, here we go.
Totally against interracial relationships.
I am totally against it, and I want to make sure you understand why. Mm-hmm. It's not because cut it out, Envy. Cut it out, Envy.
Don't do that, Envy. We have a
name for it. We have a name for it. Okay. The snow bunny crisis. Okay. I'm against the snow bunny crisis, and I want your white listeners to understand because people be trying to say stuff like, "He's the black Hitler." I'm not the black Hitler. I am in no way interested in hurting or harming the life of any human, white, Asian, Chinese. I believe in respecting everybody. The reason I'm against interracial marriage, Envy and Charlemagne, is because marriage is an economic contract. It's an economic contract. Most women do not marry down in status. They marry up. And if you don't believe me, show me a rich white woman married to a broke-ass black man. Have you ever seen a rich white woman marry a broke-ass black man? No, you have not, and you never will. Because marriage ain't about love, it's not colorblind, and it is totally economic. So if marriage is an economic unification in a contract, how can we, who don't have enough already, give so much to the white woman and to white people who have already taken too much, where we got all these black women out here who will never get married? Only 1 out of every 4 black women in America will ever taste marriage. And half of them who taste marriage will be divorced within 5 years. If you want to save the black family, if you want to save the black family, you have to protect it. And in order to protect it, you have to be against interracial marriage. You can't say, I love the black family, but I don't have a problem with interracial marriage. Interracial marriage is eliminating the black family because it is not providing our women with enough available and able black men to be their husbands.
So you're
it's not just white women. You just feel white women, Asian,
everybody. Nobody should be marrying out the race because there's political consequences, DJ Envy. I'll give you one right now. Naomi Osaka. Am I saying her name right? The tennis sister.
Mm-hmm. Naomi Osaka, yes.
Naomi, I love the sister, right? She knocked off the greatest of all time, the GOAT, in Serena. But guess what? Who is she representing in the upcoming Olympics? Is she representing Haiti? No, she representing Japan. So here you have a half African sister, an African sister with, because there's no such thing as half African, our genes are dominant. So you got an African sister with a Japanese mother, and instead of going back home to your father's blood, Haiti, to represent the Africans in Haiti, you're instead going to represent the Japanese who've never done anything for black folks and are part of the Trilateral Commission with the American white power structure. But who taught her to play tennis? Did her Japanese mother teach her to play tennis? Or did her black Haitian father teach her to play tennis? Her black Haitian father taught her to play tennis. It's the African DNA. It's the African ancestors in that girl that's responsible for her tennis success. But instead of representing us, she will go represent the Japanese. Well, this is what you got to deal with when you make mixed race African children.
I think.
I'm going to stop it right there. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to get your opinions. I just have a question. So I do know the tennis player that he's referring to, and I did read So that right there across the border is ignorant. If Japan has been funding you this entire time, it's a slap in the face to be like, oh, but I'm going to go over here and represent this side. So yeah, I love when people think they know a little bit about something and they know nothing. I'm like, you're spewing. He was passionate too, spewing that mad trash. So my other little quick question is, interracial marriage between a Black person and any other race, it almost seems like he's saying the women are the only one affected by this and not the men. So it's like, well, these men can sit around and just wait for anybody to pick them up, but the women, they have to, marry within their race because that's what the Black family is. And you got all these women sit on the sideline waiting to get married. And I'm like, what planet does this man live on? Like, I am very confused right now. But yeah, I'm gonna let you just start this because I know you got notes and Maria's just gonna start talking with no filter. So let's just go with you. Go on, my organized person. What do you got to say about Dr. Umar in the video that we just saw?
So many things. The first thing that comes to mind is he said at the end of the beginning, he said that people compare him to Hitler, but he's not Hitler because he doesn't aim to hurt anyone. And I agree that right now it's a bit of a stretch to compare him to Hitler because obviously Hitler did all what he did. However, the reason Hitler got to where he was he was a very passionate speaker, and people forget that. Hitler was very, very good with words. And you can see that same passion when he speaks, that if I wasn't me and I wasn't sort of secure in who I am, I could easily see how I could be brought in by what he was saying, because he's basically giving you a reason why maybe your life hasn't gone because it's the white man. That's why. And it's like, it's giving you that outlet to say, yeah, you're right. And I'll follow you now because you've got it sorted. You're so confident. You must be talking the truth. And it's a bit like what you were saying with Naomi. And he was like, the only reason, why isn't she playing for Haiti? And completely ignores the reasons, the fact that she's got the Japanese citizenship. And it made me laugh because we as in Britain are in the same when it comes to some of our runners. Some of our runners are only our runners purely because one of their parents was born here. And for example, they didn't make the American team, so they came here. So it's not a question of, oh, because of my race. It was purely because of the opportunity they had, which is why they followed that. So I think the fact that he just ignores that sort of stuff, and I'm like, this kind of shows there's not real meat to your argument. And then when it comes to one of the many reasons I disagree with what he says is with his speeches, they never really make sense in terms of, so I've seen two videos, I saw that one and I also saw the longer 17-minute one you sent. Mm-hmm. And in one video, he's saying how basically putting on the woman and saying the Black woman needs to hold it down for the Black man and all of this. And he doesn't say, well, why should the Black woman hold it down? Why can't she have happiness? Why does she have to hold anything down? And he was saying that they should hold us down while we're in prison. Why are you going to prison? And why are you expecting her to hold it down? And then in another video, he says that, well, he can't blame the woman for dating outside of her race because it's the man's fault for not being good enough for her in the first place. So even then, I'm like, even your arguments aren't aligning. You're saying the two different sides of the argument in two different videos. So that's why I was like, it just feels very disjointed and unhinged. And then the other point I wanted to make that I'd written down was, oh yeah, that was the other thing he was saying. So the other thing, again, doesn't make sense is he says he's very anti-interracial relationships, anti-mixed race people. But then in the same breath, he says that if someone has African heritage or Black heritage and they sort of embrace that, then they're Black, they're fully Black. So hang on, that, by his logic, if I was to sit here and say, I identify 100% with my Jamaican side, I identify as Black, he would say, Victoria, you're Black, that's it, no questions asked. But then in the same breath say, I don't like biracial people or mixed interracial relationships. How does that make sense?
Well, he started calling Naomi like half Black or half African, and then he said, oh no, she's fully African because our genes are dominant.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so you just medically decided this. Like, you medically, because I mean, again, ambiguous mixed person. My mother's white genes and my father's black genes did not hit me as hard as my Native American genes did. I have so many Native American traits and genes. So I didn't think that there was a war going on in my body. I didn't feel like it was a genetic battle royale. And I wasn't raised to think that way. I never really looked at my parents as anything other than my parents. I am not colorblind. I'm not seeing the world through rose-colored glasses. It's just that I don't feel like in this society, I need to walk into my house when my mother was alive, by the way, and just go up to my parents and be like, every day, you're not black, right? And hey, dad, you're not white, right? Okay, cool. I'm glad we have this daily effing meeting that we need to have, because, no other child has to have this conversation. Apparently it's upon me, my responsibility, who had no, say in being created and how I was going to look and who my parents were at all. It's our job to go up to our parents and be like, so you know what? You're interracial. Mic drop. I'm going to eat lunch now. I'm like, this man is nuts. And yeah, I agree with you. He's not on the level of Hitler in that first of all, he doesn't have the clout that Hitler does. Because you have to understand, Hitler literally proposed an Aryan race of blonde hair and blue eyes, and he had none of that. And people still followed this man blindly, because when he went to these Germans, they were destitute. They had nothing. They needed hope. This man, Dr. Umar Johnson, is doing the same thing in the Black community with this BLM movement, with the social climate, with, things happen with cops that were gunning down Black people on the streets. They need, I like to say I'm mixed, so I do consider myself in the Black community. So there needs to be something to basically represent hope, a leader, something that takes everybody away from this situation. I get what he's doing, but what people aren't seeing is he's doing it for nefarious reasons. He's doing it to get donations for this imaginary school that he's opening, that it's still not open. He's been taking money for years. We have no idea what's happening with this school he's basically opening. And I guess we can talk about that school later, but he is a hustler. He is a snake charmer. He's a person selling you that potion or that cream that's going to make your wrinkles go away overnight. That's what Dr. Umar Johnson is doing. He's doing it by giving you a little nugget of truth of what's happening and then adding a bunch of bullshit. That's literally what it is. But in terms of interracial marriage, I don't understand. I don't understand how a person falling in love with somebody that's not in the same, ethnicity, racial category, culture as you, is necessarily seen as a bad thing, because this has been happening historically since the creation of man. So I don't get why all of a sudden this is a threat to the Black family, because not everybody is going to be out there saying, I can't marry you because you look like me, your skin's like me, and I don't accept that. Not everyone is instantly going out there saying, I just got to go out there and make those mixed babies. Now, I'm not saying there are not people that don't, because I know they do. I'm not going to lie. I've heard people say problematic crap and say, oh, you get that good hair. I'm going to have a baby have skin like you. I'm like, I've heard that. But that does not mean is the mass majority of the world doing this. And then as for talking about, really for me, he was talking about economic classism. He's like saying that a rich white woman is not going to go marry a poor Black man. Why does the man always have to be poor? Why are we always stereotyping? There are plenty of Black families that are successful, that have good jobs and make lots of money, that actually make more money than some of the white ones, especially here in the South. There are a lot of families that have bank, and there are white families that are living in the trailer park. So I am confused on his narrow-minded view of the Black community himself, because he has a narrow-minded view of how the Black community is. So
I think that also feeds into one of the other points I had was, like you were saying, where the best lies have a grain of truth. And he said, for example, no woman dates down. That is statistically true. The majority of women don't date down compared to men, who are more likely to date down. However, that's not limited to race. That's not a question of, oh, a white woman won't date. No woman, period, on average date down. It's not a question of what their color of their skin is. And so the fact that he then kind of warps that, because in his videos he will say how basically the black, I think he was saying that the man will only date the white women that are like left over or something, in terms of because of dating down and things. And I was like, you're taking truth in terms of statistics on how people date in terms of dating down, dating up, but you're lying by kind of excluding the fact that it's all races. And I think again that feeds into how he's able to kind of trap people into the belief that what he's saying is gospel. It's just wild.
I mean, he's good at it because of one interesting fact. He apparently, according to the internet, I have not seen his degree, is a clinical psychologist. So a clinical psychologist who specializes in behavioral issues is out here spewing this garbage. And who better than a psychologist to know how to do reverse psychology on people? Who better than a psychologist to take a point and then create a story in a world around this point that is so exaggerated that your brain can't process it fast enough. And then you're just like, oh, maybe there's some nuggets of truth in that. Maybe you're right. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe thinking that interracial families, are okay means I'm sacrificing my Black identity in Black families. I mean, he's playing on something that is already a fear in people, and it's messed up. And he is capitalizing on it. And I think the reason people should be angry about this is not just the stuff he's saying, he is making money off of it. People are giving him money. I think you told me he has 700,000 followers on Instagram. That's crazy. If you look at the comment sections on some of the videos, and I'll link the videos in the description box, the fact that so many people agree with him scares me. The stuff he's saying is crazy. If this is coming out of a white man's mouth, or any other culture's mouth, even another POC about Black community, people will be up in arms calling it racist. But because it's coming out of his mouth, it's completely acceptable. And I mean, I'm sorry, I call BS on that. I do. I go back to something, I think a point we made in our mixed identity video. We POCs in general need to support each other. We need to be advocates for each other. And we need to separate from people like Dr. Umar Johnson, who are not going to be progressive and get us where we need to be in this world. They're literally holding us back. You're creating a segregated society. Again, we do not need to be segregated. We need to figure out how to live together. And we are never going to do that with this man. So,
and that makes me think, because so in the longer video, the 17-minute one, there's the question of Christianity brought up. So obviously Christianity is quite big in, I would say, a lot of Black communities. And one of the first teachings that we all get taught is, love thy neighbor. And someone brought up that point of like loving thy neighbor, and, we shouldn't spread hate, we should spread love and turn the other cheek. And he literally turned around and was basically like, this is why Christianity don't use Christianity to form politics. And he was saying that Christianity is wrong in that point, because we shouldn't be sort of loving thy neighbor like that. And he was basically, again, warping and saying, don't use Christianity to form politics. And rightly or wrongly, I mean, in this country anyway, our laws are founded from some form of Christianity. That's because it's a Christian country by history. So that's just how our laws were created. However, taking even like the actual legal side of how Christianity has impacted our politics, it is wild to me that people who might be Christian and believe in the Bible, believe, love thy neighbor, do good, would then hear him say that and say, you know what, you're right, I'm not going to love my neighbor. And then think that by spreading that hate is going to help them reach the end goal. Because no one's going to want to help you if they feel like you don't like them. If that makes it. It's almost like, it's literally like needing help from your neighbor, but your neighbor hears you screaming how much you hate them. They're never going to help you.
I mean, you bring up a valid point about Christianity in general. Now, disclaimer, Maria does not have a problem with Christianity. Say it together, guys. Maria has no problem with Christianity. Don't come at me saying, oh my God, she said it. Don't do it, because I just disclaimed that. So that makes a fool out of you and me. But I live in the Bible Belt. So I live in the South. And even though technically, if you really think about it, our rules were not inspired 100% by Christianity, they are heavily influenced by Christianity across the board, everything from abortions to sexuality. I mean, you name it. People go to church on Sunday and preach, I love my neighbor, I accept my neighbor, regardless of what you are, but yada, yada. And then, Monday through Saturday, act the clown and act the fool and show themselves and their own personal biases. They take these biases and they basically adapt it to Christianity and preach it as the gospel. That's what happens across the board, especially in the States and definitely in the South. So, but for Dr. Umar Johnson to say, don't mix politics and Christianity, I'm like, when the hell did that start? Because that's been something that's happened in this country for years. I'm like, and years. So, yeah, it's ignorant. And he just doesn't want, the reason he doesn't want people asking this is because he doesn't have an answer for it. So the best way to rebuff something is by saying it's not valid. I'm like, that's not a point we need to discuss. We're talking politics. We're not talking about what God wants. So yeah, that, like I said, he didn't have time to prep that answer. You just threw him off. That's what that was about.
He's researching now for next time he's asked.
Yeah, he's like, wait, she's bringing it on. And I'm like, hold on. How is it gonna affect my donations? Because I need people to keep coming at me. But no, I wonder how effective Dr. Umar Johnson would be if people stopped donating to him.
Very good question.
Yeah, because honestly, it is a cult. To me, Scientology, Dr. Umar Johnson, there's all these different levels of cultness. Like Scientology as a religion was basically started, I believe it was on a bet. This is basically, he's doing this based on controversy. He's like, what can I milk out of the Black community? Because that is who's giving him money. It is the Black community. The people that he's like, I'm protective of, I want to see get ahead, but you're taking their money. I'm like, why aren't you doing this for free? Why aren't you preaching the gospel for free? Why do we have to pay you to say all this mad stuff that you're saying right now? People, and think about it.
That does make me smile, because the reason I knew about his donation and stuff was because in one of the videos he was saying how making the point of like what white person has created for example, a Black college or things like that. And then I was like, to be fair, I don't know, but what have you created? So I was like Googling to see, because I was like, you're kind of judging others for not doing it, and not to be Christian again, but judge thy lest thou be judged thyself. So
I don't understand. So if you are a Christian person, right, then that is what you do. You live a Christian life. So how do you not separate that from what he's saying? And by the way, what he's saying is not politics. It's not political. It's not. It's controversial. That's what he needs to understand. This is all a showmanship. If he didn't have a social media account, if nobody was trying to interview him, nobody would know who the hell this man is. And no one would care. He would have his little pocket of friends, which hopefully he's not taking this to work, because I really wonder, and I would really love if somebody is a big supporter of Dr. Umar Johnson, I'm sure that I'll have some hateful comments on here. Again, I don't care. But I would really love to know if this man only treats people in the Black community. Do you segregate your money? Because you are a clinical psychologist. So if somebody who is not a POC, comes to you and says, I need help, what are your sessions like? Do you treat them? Do you educate them on the fact that, you are the white devil and, and I'm in the Black community and I'm here to educate you on your wrongness. And this is why you have all these anxiety and panic attacks and you have PTSD. Yes, you may have been abused as a child, but it's not about that. It's about the fact that how you're affecting the rest of us. And we need to educate you. I want to know, or is he like a standard psychologist who's like, the money talks and I can be whatever you need me to be as long as the check clears?
How would that work in America in terms of, so if that was to be here and he had a patient and he wouldn't treat them because they're white, he could be arrested and taken to court for that. So as in, how does that work in terms of turning away someone based on their race?
Right now, I don't think you can do that at all. I mean, we have policies in place that prevent discrimination. It unfortunately does not always work with sexuality because, they discriminate against LGBT. There are actual laws in place right now, and especially in some states where they enforce it, that like say I needed to see a therapist and I'm in an LGBT marriage, but they found out I'm married to somebody who they consider same sex. They have the right to refuse to treat me. And unfortunately, that's how it is here. But as for race and our ethnicity, no, you can't discriminate against race, ethnicity, any disability, none of that. You can't do it. So if somebody who was not a POC comes up to him for treatment, and he says, I can't treat you because you're white, he can get into a shitstorm. He might even get suspended or lose his business. So that's the point I'm making, is that you're saying all of this stuff on the side, but you're probably still taking that money. So does that not make you a hypocrite? If he's a practicing psychologist, does that not make you hypocritical? So I don't know. Just things I have questions about. Got questions about.
Would love to know the answer.
But yeah, overall, I feel that Dr. Umar is a train wreck that keeps happening. I think that his messages are problematic, even if some of the things he said, again, there are nuggets of truth about systemic racism and how Black people are treated in state. There's no debate about that, but you can't take that foundation of discrimination and oppression and build more discrimination and racism, oppression against other groups and interracial marriage just for your benefit, all because you want to make money. You're trying to make a buck. You're trying to make a name for yourself, and you're just being hateful as shit. And unfortunately, you've amassed this following that either is very affected by what's happening. I don't know how you couldn't be, but is very affected by everything that's going on, especially in the US right now. And they need an outlet. And you are that outlet. And that's how all the best cults are formed. And it's sad. And I really wish people would just really take a breath, open your eyes, and think, because this guy is dribbling nonsense with tiny nuggets of truth mixed in, and you're not seeing it. And he's not even doing it for free, people. If you're not going to go to work for free, if you're not going to do a service, like if you're a crafter or you have a product that you sell and you're not going to do it for free, why in the hell are you going to pay this man? Because he's not doing it for free. He's taking your money. It's not free for you. Like, it's not even free hate. So I need you guys to recognize. But yeah, so any final thoughts on this?
I think you summed up very nicely. I think my final thoughts kind of echo what you said. For me, I think him alone isn't dangerous in terms of we're always going to have people who are going to say crazy stuff. For me, what's dangerous is the timing, as in this is a very, very vulnerable time for a lot of people. So if you're going to captivate people, it's going to be now. And for the real danger lies in how many, especially young people, seem to be following and supporting him, because those are the people that are really going to be sort of impacting, if they follow this all the way, feeding that into their friendship circles, their children's lives. And that, for me, is where it becomes very, very dangerous. So I think it'll be interesting to see if maybe his popularity wanes when things like COVID kind of slows down and people are more going out and about. They're not maybe online as much. Maybe if there's some reforms in America and things like, it'll be interesting to see how his popularity continues. I would not be surprised if in like a few years we sat here saying, have you heard the news? There's like a new cult has formed. But yeah, so for me, for now, I have to, so in my family or in England, we always say, if you don't laugh, you'll cry. So for me, I'm taking it with just a pinch of comedy and thinking it's, like he said, white, Asian, Chinese. It's hilarious because
yep. I'm going to have to tell my Korean American spouse that you won the lottery. You're actually in the Asian label category because China got kicked out. Sorry, China. No longer Asian, apparently, according to Dr. Umar Johnson, a licensed psychologist. No, it's funny. And I do like that phrase too. My mother used to say that a lot. If I don't laugh, I'll cry. So yeah, I think that's probably a universal term at this point. I'm not even going to cry. If I don't laugh, I'll just choke to death on how ignorant it is, because it's just insane. But thank you for being here, Victoria. We did an interesting blackfishing video on Victoria's channel. So when that's up, I will link it to you. And of course, we'll have many more videos. We have so much to talk about in this really great world. Her information, again, is in the description box, Miss Victoria Rain's channel. So please like and subscribe. She has some amazing videos. Plus, she's learning Thai. So she has tips and tricks on how to learn Thai language. So check it out. I have more videos coming up this week, guys. You already know it. I'm not gonna advertise it. I want to put that stress on myself, but they're coming. All right, guys, we will talk to you later. Have a great day or a great evening, whatever time zone you're in. But yeah, bye.
Thank you for watching my video. I really appreciate it, but hey, the party doesn't have to stop now. Click on one of these videos and keep it going.